This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. Forecasters are now describing Hurricane Hugo as extremely dangerous, and as the storm churned toward the islands of the eastern Caribbean tonight, hurricane warnings went up for the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. At St. Croix, they made preparations for the hurricane, even though the weather conditions were still favorable today. Many people decided to leave the island once the hurricane warnings were issued. Standing by now with the latest on Hurricane Hugo is Dr. Robert Sheets, director of the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida. Well, Bob, what's the latest?
Well, it's moving now into the Leeward Islands. We just had a report of winds of about 50 miles per hour in St. Bartholomew up in here. So you can see it moving through the Leeward Islands, and as you indicated, up through the Virgin Islands and over Puerto Rico sometime tomorrow night and early Monday morning.
And this one looks pretty bad, I take it.
It's been very strong, and it's fluctuated in its intensity over the day here today and yesterday. But indeed, it could be very strong for the core region where that hurricane actually strikes.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Sheets.
Yes, thank you.
People along the East Coast were bracing for more rain tonight after storms left 2 people dead in West Virginia flooding. The heaviest rains overnight were in Fayetteville, North Carolina. 2 children drowned there after 4 inches of rain fell during a 2-hour period. The first of a new class of Navy destroyers, the USS Arleigh Burke, was christened today, but even before it slid down the ways in Bath, Maine, it was already in the eye of a political storm, a storm that could make the Navy's most expensive destroyer ever, the last of its class. Pentagon correspondent David Martin has our report on that.
What was to be a banner day for the Navy began before dawn as 500 workmen readied the destroyer Arleigh Burke to slide down the waves, the first of a new class of warship. It is also the first billion-dollar destroyer ever. Even before its christening, Congressman John Dingell had sent a letter to the Secretary of the Navy calling the Burke a procurement nightmare, delivered over budget and 18 months late. That brought a heated response from Maine Congressman Joseph Brennan, defending the ship's builder, which is also the state's largest employer.
Mr. Dingell, the critic, who evidently considers himself an expert on shipbuilding, never set foot in Bath Iron Works.
Bath's chairman acknowledged there had been a substantial cost overrun, but said that was to be expected.
The difference between the target price and what our final costs will fall in the range of about 25%. I don't think that's abnormal.
The Navy says the overrun at Bath has been made up with savings elsewhere, so that the total cost of the ship will come in as advertised, $1.1 billion. Both Bath and the Navy blame the overrun on the Burke's revolutionary design, which bears little resemblance to the World War II destroyers Arleigh Burke commanded in the Pacific. 31-knot Burke, as he was called, is the Navy's greatest living legend, and today's christening was as much a tribute to him as it was a ceremony for the ship.
It is the most survivable, the most technologically advanced, and the most capable destroyer in the world. Admiral, it is clearly worthy of your name.
I'm very grateful, extremely grateful for getting credit for what a great many other people are doing and have done.
Although it is now afloat, the Burke is only about half completed. It still must be outfitted with the electronics needed for its mission of defending the fleet against air attack. It will be another year and a half before the Burke is ready to go to sea. David Martin, CBS News, Washington.
And still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, the mystery surrounding 4 heavily armed men arrested north of the border, and later Jerry Bowen on the danger off the California coast.
Some coffee companies imply that the darker a coffee appears, the better it is. Not true. Sanko ground coffee thinks that the way it's made is more important than how it looks. We're the only ones who use pure water and effervescence to decaffeinate naturally, removing virtually none of the coffee flavor from the bean. Wonderful. With or without these. Sanko ground decaffeinated coffee. You can't beat the original.
The Fish family talks about a brand new air freshener.
We're just thrilled to the gills with new renewed Fresh Air.
The very latest in air fresheners.
We think it's the most beautiful shape in the world.
It reminds us of the old neighborhood.
Introducing new Renews It Fresh L. It's a beautiful shell on the outside, and inside it's a long-lasting air freshener that freshens all day, all week, all month.
Since Renews It Fresh L.
Oh, we're the freshest fish in town.
New Renews It Fresh L. Good-looking, hard-working.
Before I started wearing no nonsense, I used to have more nail polish on my pantyhose than on my fingernails. Looks better here, doesn't it?
Pantyhose that last are no nonsense.
When the burning, itching, and soreness of hemorrhoids flare up, Tux medicated pads give you soothing, cooling relief on contact. For hemorrhoid flare-up, get Tux, now with special savings.
A small Canadian community on the U.S. border is still baffled today by what's been happening there this week. It began when 4 Latin Americans were caught with a supply of rifles and other weapons. Many there believe that drugs are at the bottom of it, and Christine Negroni has our report.
It's a mystery to the people of Edmundston in northeast Canada why 4 men carrying an arsenal of illegal weapons came to their town. They were speaking Spanish and carrying Venezuelan passports, possibly forged. By the sizable cache of guns, burglary tools, and other supplies, it was clear they had serious business planned. And they were apparently not operating alone. Police are still looking for 3 more men.
We believe that there's still others. I don't know if they're in Canada or in the United States right now, but there was other with them for sure.
Those arrested were taken to an undisclosed secure location. Police now suspect they were in Canada to disrupt the drug trial of 2 Colombian nationals in a town 100 miles away. The people of Edmundston don't know if the men arrested are drug merchants or international hitmen, but everyone's convinced that drugs are somehow involved. They feel vulnerable because they know that drug traffickers are coming through their towns on their way to the United States. Border agents try to control the bridges which connect the 2 countries, but some bridges are left unguarded at night. Crossing the border surreptitiously is not difficult.
It's easy to cross the border on a river. You can almost walk across in some different area here around this city.
It's a peaceful town, and all of a sudden, if it's the drugs and the cartel is moving around this place because we're so close to the border, people are starting to worry.
The immediate worry is that this small town and others like it are not equipped for the kind of crime and violence that accompanies international drug trafficking. The 4 men arrested here had a lot more firepower than the local police force. Christine Negroni, CBS News, Edmundston, New Brunswick.
The drug-related turmoil goes on in Colombia. Tonight, 2 bombs went off in downtown Bogota, injuring at least 2 people. A number of buildings reportedly were damaged. As the drug problem has become more severe in this country, the United States has been urging Colombian farmers to grow coffee instead of coca, the substance that cocaine is made from. But coffee prices have nosedived, and Colombia blames this country for the worst slump since the 1920s. More on that story now from White House correspondent Wyatt Andrews.
To hear the Colombians tell it, America is guilty of the worst kind of injustice, doing nothing while the price for Colombian coffee collapsed in half, creating, in effect, hard times for Juan Valdez.
100% Colombian coffee, the richest coffee in the world.
Coffee is not just a trade issue these days. It goes straight to the heart of the drug war. Cocaine has replaced coffee as Colombia's chief export because more growers have switched to cocaine every year. Now, with the United States pledging millions to tempt those growers out of cocaine and back into coffee, it's not the time, Colombia says, to make coffee less profitable. U.S. officials admit they did nothing to stop the collapse of world coffee prices and acknowledge that this has not helped the war on drugs. But at the same time, the White House does not see Colombia as an innocent victim. In fact, the charge leveled at Colombia is dumping. To U.S. officials, Colombia had it coming. They say Colombia used the price support system to charge Americans roughly $1.60 a pound for wholesale coffee, while selling coffee to the East Bloc under the table for $1.
They were shipping huge amounts of coffee to countries who are not members of the International Coffee Agreement, and shipping these coffees, selling these coffees at substantially reduced prices.
Now Colombia is in genuine trouble. President Barco has complained of an economic emergency, and coffee prices have fallen farther than anyone predicted. White House sources say President Bush is inclined to help Colombia, but that international price supports, just like Humpty Dumpty once said, cannot be put together again. And the irony to U.S. officials is that last summer, when Colombia was asked to stop the cheating, it could have said yes and helped itself. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, the White House.
Exxon ended its cleanup operation in Alaska yesterday, at least temporarily, and today officials were out reassessing the damage done in the state and to its people by the biggest oil spill in U.S. history. John Blackstone reports.
With Exxon's cleanup workers gone from Prince William Sound, the man appointed by President Bush to make sure the job is done right made his own inspection of beaches and found they are still coated with oil.
I'm not sure that this can be restored and fully cleaned up. It needs to be treated and treated properly, and I think Exxon's going to do that.
But Exxon won't do that until next spring at the earliest. Some members of a congressional delegation traveling with Yost think Exxon still has a lot to do.
This one's going to go back to Washington.
There was disappointment with beaches Exxon describes as environmentally stable.
There's oil oozing out all over.
Hasta la vista! As the last of the cleanup workers head home from Valdez, Alaskans are beginning to add up the human cost of the spill.
You can bet that your life has changed, and your family's life has changed, and your community's life has changed, and often in ways that you wouldn't desire.
While thousands of Alaskans got high-paying jobs with Exxon to help with the cleanup, oil in the water prevented thousands of Alaskan fishermen from fishing this year. Now, Kodiak fisherman Scott Gilliland is having trouble making boat payments. The story, he tells, is being repeated up and down the state.
It just separated into a haves and haves-nots. There's guys that this year made a $400,000 a year working for Exxon, while other boats sat in the harbor that are just as capable or just as good and got nothing.
Fishing is the reason Kodiak exists. The ruin of the fishing season disrupted every part of the economy, touched every part of daily life.
Exxon can pay for the dead birds and for the lost fish, but they can't do anything to pay for the damage that has been done to the social fabric of the community.
Measuring damage to the social fabric is inexact, but in towns throughout the area of the spill, there are reports of increased problems with alcohol, domestic violence, and psychological stress. Even if Exxon eventually cleans up all the oil, the spill will leave a permanent stain on the lives of many Alaskans. John Blackstone, CBS News, Anchorage.
Think I'm fit? You don't know the half of it.
Mike Garfield for Kellogg's Bran Flakes.
It takes a lot of training to get fit on the outside. But there's another Mike Garfield inside. To help keep our inside as fit as our outside, we need only one kind of Bran Flakes. Kellogg's Bran Flakes. It's got plenty of that bran everyone's eating today. Helps you stay fit on the inside. And it tastes good.
Kellogg's Bran Flakes.
Helps keep the inside as fit as the outside.
Now Red Lobster tempts you like never before with king crab legs, sweet snow crab, luscious Dungeness. It's our Crab Lovers Festival, starting at an incredible $6.95. Give in to temptation. 8 great crab and seafood platters you love, starting at just $6.95. The Crab Lovers Festival, now at Red Lobster. And kids get shrimp, a complete meal, just $1.95.
How's Mama doing?
It's already happening. People calling long distance with 1 free month of U.S. Sprint. To get your free month, call Sprint now. This is one offer that seems to be catching on.
When Ocean Spray adds sweet plump strawberries to tangy cranberries, something cool and refreshing happens to salads. Cran fruit brand sauces add a cool, refreshing zing to everything.
A college stadium in Los Angeles was the scene of an unusual event today. Nearly 4,000 Hispanics from 17 Latin American countries took the oath as new U.S. citizens. It was billed as one of the largest ceremonies of its kind ever for one ethnic group. There are indications today in Poland that the controversy that's been raging over the convent at Auschwitz may be nearing an end, a controversy that's pitted Roman Catholics against Jews. Bert Quint has the latest.
Poland's Roman Catholic primate, Józef Glemp, appeared today to have backed down in his dispute with World Jewry over whether to move a convent at the former Nazi death camp at Auschwitz. Jews have protested the presence of the convent with a handful of Carmelite nuns at the edge of the camp complex in southern Poland where 4 million people, 2.5 million of them Jews, were killed. They say Auschwitz is our symbol of the Holocaust. Glemp's apparent change of heart came after a meeting with Zygmunt Nissenbaum, a West German Jew who has close Polish business ties. Glemp is quoted as saying, "It is better to move the nuns." This is a far cry from his comments a few weeks ago when Glemp said the Jewish protests offend Poles and provoke anti-Polish propaganda. He indicated he would not abide by an earlier agreement to move the convent a short distance away. Glemp's words and the angry reaction of Jews here and abroad revived bad old memories in this country which alternately sheltered and persecuted Jews before most of Poland's Jewry was wiped out in the Holocaust. The dispute caused Glemp to call up a scheduled visit to the United States. The Polish news agency hinted the West German businessman offered funds for construction of a new convent. But it's also likely that the primate changed his stand because Nissenbaum, or others, warned him that charges of anti-Semitism could block American congressional appropriations for the financial aid this country badly needs. Kurt Quint, CBS News, Warsaw.
China's senior leader was seen in public today for the first time in more than 3 months, putting to rest, for the time being anyway, that he is seriously ill. John Sheehan now with that story.
Deng Xiaoping appeared on Chinese television this evening, refuting weeks of rumor that he was in failing health. The 85-year-old supreme leader was smiling and animated as he chatted with Chinese-American professor T.D. Lee. It was the kind of meeting that normally would not make the Chinese evening news. Tonight it was the lead story making the point that despite U.S. condemnation of the June massacre of unarmed civilians, a prominent American, a Nobel Prize winner, paid his respects to China's communist leadership. Deng had not been seen in public since 5 days after the Chinese army shot its way to Tiananmen Square to suppress the pro-democracy movement. Today, the government finished erecting a communist-inspired statue on the square, at about the same spot where the student protesters had put up their goddess of democracy. The square, still sealed off by the army, will be reopened on October 1st, but only to selected groups who will celebrate the 40th anniversary of the communist state. John Sheehan, CBS News, Beijing.
During the protests in Beijing last June, you'll remember that many of the signs carried slogans in English. Well, English, it now appears, is used all over the world to register protest, and apparently television in this country is part of the reason. Richard Roth reports.
It catches the eye in a sea of chaos, something that doesn't quite fit. A blurred home video of history being made in a very foreign land, and a banner written in English. English is not the tongue of Soviet Moldavians. It's not the speech of separatists in Estonia or dissidents in Moscow. But suddenly, it seems, it's become the language of choice in parts of the world boiling with protest.
Every step we made is always in front of the camera, in front of people all over the world.
Music may be, as a poet said, the universal language of mankind. But English has become the international idiom of dissent, and social scientists agree it's partly a function of the reach of American television.
They figure that if they can get their message to us, that there will be some reverberation in their country. And I think they're correct.
You don't have to do an interview, you don't have to get translations, you don't have to do anything of the sort. There it is. It's the visual.
But more than just a visual, what's happening here may be a political event of some significance, an uprising of ideas and hopes fed by the revolution in communications technology.
Increasingly, politics is going to be played out on the international stage to an international audience.
One student in China this summer said, there it was only logical that Western ideals were often expressed in a Western language, like Shakespeare's Hamlet, suiting the word to the action. Richard Roth, CBS News, New York.
butter starts like this, but can end up like this. So now there's all-natural Butter Buds. It has the same flavor as this, with no cholesterol and virtually no fat. Delicious. New Butter Buds. It's better than butter.
When you get an allergy attack, you'll try any advice. Any advice.
Try the desert.
But the best advice is what doctors have said millions of times. Take Dimetap. Dimetap in non-prescription formulas brings proven relief. So take the advice of doctors and pharmacists for allergies.
I see the desert worked.
And take Dimetap, the best advice you can take.
The day may come when all refrigerators will make your food this easy to find. When all cooktops and ovens will let you clean up as easily as these. Someday, all dishwashers may run quietly enough to let you talk on the phone. The day may even come when every washer will handle all your fabrics with expert care. But isn't it nice to know that Whirlpool gives you all this today?
Whirlpool. Got a flat tire. Now my stomach's on fire. My day. And my Lanta, too.
Introducing Mylanta 2 roll packs for double strength antacid relief wherever you are.
Because my life takes Mylanta 2.
For our Washington Notebook segment tonight, we're going to turn now to next week's visit to the United States by Soviet Foreign Minister Shevardnadze. There is increasing talk in Washington that the administration ought to use the visit to restart arms control negotiations. But as we learned this week, that may not be what the administration has in mind, and that view perplexes some arms control experts.
The waiting time is over. I don't know what we're waiting for. It's time to do it. It's time to cut a deal.
They're going to miss a terrific opportunity to do something in the arms control area, something major.
Mendelsohn reflects the urgency in some quarters of Washington as the Bush administration prepares to open the talks with Soviet Foreign Minister Shevardnadze. The Soviets are complaining the U.S. is dragging its feet, in danger of losing a golden opportunity to make serious cuts in both countries' massive arsenals. Many U.S. arms control experts agree.
There has been a total lack of momentum as far as the strategic arms talks are concerned since President Bush took office.
Part of the problem is that the United States is bogged down in disagreements over which new weapons to pay for, like the stealth bomber or mobile missiles. Glitches discovered only this week in the newest missiles only make the debate more complicated. The president insists there is no need to get in a rush.
I'm like the guy from Missouri. Show me. And take your time and do it right.
The demonstrations for freedom that have begun to sweep Eastern Europe and the separatist movements that have emerged in the Soviet Baltic states raise at least the possibility that Gorbachev himself may not survive the reform movement he started. But whether he does or not, some experts say, it is in the U.S. interest to act now.
The United States is the preeminent free world country. We should act like it. And in an area like this, I mean, if you believe that Gorbachev's only going to be around a year or two, then you should solidify the gains in Eastern Europe now.
Even some on the Republican right, who were the most dubious about Soviet-American cooperation, are now suggesting a new superpower summit to talk arms reductions.
I think it can be a getting-to-know-you summit, and I think it can be a summit where Bush sits down and says, you know, the most interesting thing in the world today is happening in the Soviet Union. In the Soviet Empire. How do you see it?
Next week, the two sides are expected to announce an agreement on chemical weapons where each side would be allowed to make on-site inspections of each other's weapons manufacturing and storage facilities. Symbolic, say the arms experts, but missing the brass ring.
We have a very receptive Soviet leadership at the present point that recognizes they can't afford a nuclear war. So it's a great opportunity to make significant strides.
Shevardnadze's visit begins on Thursday when he goes to the White House for a meeting with President Bush. The Soviet foreign minister will then travel west for more extensive talks with Secretary of State James Baker at his Wyoming ranch.
Did you know that certain kinds of diet frozen foods get 40, even 50% of their calories from fat? Fat! Eat smarter. The one you can trust is Le Menu Lifestyle. Every serving is under 300 calories, helps you limit sodium, cholesterol, and is low fat. The only thing we didn't touch is the taste. Le Menu Lifestyle. Eat smarter.
Before I started wearing no nonsense, I used to have more nail polish on my pantyhose than on my fingernails. Looks better here, doesn't it?
Pantyhose that last are no nonsense.
Ever since Unisom, people have abandoned their old sleep medicine because medical tests prove people fall asleep faster and sleep better all night with Unisom than without. Take Unisom for faster, better sleep.
Last year, 6 million people bought a refrigerator 1 year too soon. Introducing the new refrigerator from Maytag. Buy one now, and if it stops working before the year 2000, we'll buy it back. See your Maytag dealer for details. See a Maytag repairman in our commercials. The new refrigerator from Maytag. The dependability people.
Finally tonight, just when Californians thought it was safe to go into the water, there appears to be a big increase in the shark population, and that's led to some terrifying encounters, as we hear from Jerry Bowen.
There they are. Look at that guy.
It was supposed to have been just another photo expedition for sharks off the California coast earlier this month.
Woo-hee! We hungry. Feed me.
But when Larry Stropp left the protection of the diver's cage, a blue shark quickly attacked, biting him on one arm and a hand.
It wasn't the shark's fault. He was doing what was natural. I was the one that was in his territory.
An attack by a blue shark, any shark for that matter, is rare. But the 46-year-old Stropp hasn't been the only victim in California this year. 1 week ago, an abalone diver working near the Farallon Islands off San Francisco was attacked. His left leg ripped open. And last January, 2 kayakers were presumed killed by a great white shark off the Channel Islands near Santa Barbara. Only the woman's body was recovered. At San Francisco's Steinhardt Aquarium, where a frozen great white is a major attraction, scientists say a population explosion is the cause. Too many seals, sharks, and people in the same place.
As the population of seals increase, their food for white sharks and the population of white sharks should increase correspondingly.
I don't like to get too close to that guy.
But if man gets in the way, he can get in big trouble.
If you go diving around an area that's an active sea lion rookery or an elephant seal rookery, you're potentially asking for trouble.
To a great white shark, the outlines of a sea lion, a diver, or a surfer don't appear all that different. Abalone diver Mark Tisserand is living proof.
I think anything out there at this time of year, if it's around floating in the water, is like a potential food for them.
But it's not quite time to start humming the theme song from Jaws, not according to defenders of the great white.
When you compare it to lightning strikes on humans and bee stings and all the other things, I mean, more people have been killed by pigs in the United States than by white sharks.
Maybe so, but it's not killer pigs giving some people second thoughts these days about taking a dip in the ocean. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And that's the news. Charles Carrault will be along tomorrow on Sunday morning. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News in New York. Good night.
Collisions, the Eagles and the Skins, the Vikings and the Bears. No love will be lost tomorrow.
This is CBS.
For years,